All right, so somebody on Instagram told me that I should do a coming out story, so I'm gonna give this a shot. I think for me, the best way to do it is probably just to like take you guys kind of like on a journey of like my sexuality, and then I'll tell like when I actually did finally come out to my aunt. I'm from Chicago, and I was raised by my great aunts because my mom died when I was 10 years old. So I had a single mom. I don't know my dad. I've never known my dad. And it was just like me, my mom, and my sister. And when I was young, they kind of sexualize you. You're a boy. Boys, play sports. Boys do this. Girls, you do that. And I think because I like had the kind of upbringing I did play around with my sisters like dolls and stuff, and but also like play basketball and all these things. So I was getting like a little bit of both. I was getting a lot of both, and eventually, like at 10 years old, my mom died, and I had to move to Michigan, and I lived with my aunt, my great aunt, my aunt Thama, and I was a bad kid. I would just like look up stuff online, and I was curious about everything. And you kind of can tell, like I knew that if I were in a locker room with guys, and sometimes I would get a hard on, like if it was like showers and things like that, or like even getting a physical, like my dick would get hard. So I'm like, okay, like there's something going on here, but I'm just like, yo, like I have to like edit this, like I can't this can't be a thing, So I would just, when you go to pee, like sometimes I couldn't pee. And that's a real thing, So I would like always choose to go to the stall. But I didn't want to be gay, that's not something that I wanted. And part of that is because for me at the time, it's the imaging of like what it was to be gay was like, RuPaul and just like very flamboyant gays and things like that. And that wasn't me. Like I was a guy and wanted to be one. So I was just like, all right, this is just like a phase. Like this isn't really who I am or like who I want to be. Like, as you're trying to create the image of yourself. So for the middle school, all that stuff, like I dated girls, and when I got to high school, like I always dated girls. And it wasn't until my junior year, I was in this program called Upward Bound. And it's like, it's basically like college prep for high schoolers or whatever. And they have a summer program where you go stay on a college campus for the summer. So it was like me and our school and like another school. So I was friends with this kid, and he was telling me that he liked somebody on campus, and so I'm like naming every single girl there, like this is her, is it her, is it her? And he's like, no. So eventually he's like, it's you. I was like, oh, I'm not gay, you know what I'm saying? And he kind of broke down crying, and it was this whole thing. And I'm just like, yo, it's cool, bro. Like, I'll still be your friend. I'm not gonna tell anybody. And we were cool, we were fine. But eventually, I kind of he talked me into giving me head or whatever, and I let him do it. It was cool. I enjoyed it. So that happened, and then the next day, I'm in the dormitory, in the showers or whatever, and I come out, and another kid who actually goes to my school comes up to me, and he's like, yeah, can I give you head, this and that? I'm like, okay. So I let him do it. So this was my first time ever coming, that was an experience. So I was just like, whoa. So okay, but whatever, it happened. I go back to my room, like nothing ever happened. I do my thing. The next day, the first guy comes into my room mad, basically you cheated on me, this, that, and the third. And I'm like, whoa, yo, you tripping, I'm not even gay, yada yada. And it turns out the first guy, the second kid liked the first guy, so he was trying to set me up. But it was just yo, y'all can have all this, I'm actually good. And I think I just stopped talking to both of them for the rest of the program and did my thing. But eventually, you know what I mean, I definitely circled back and kicked it with both of them. I actually took the first guy's virginity, and yes, I mean, I went back to high school and like, yeah, like that was something like on the side, but like, you know, I definitely wasn't making it a thing. I still was dating girls and like, but I knew what I preferred, you know, because like with girls, like I couldn't get a hard on sometimes, you know, like, or I would have to like, once I did start having sex, I would have to like have sex without a condom, you know, because like it just felt so good that like I would be good. Whereas with a condom, it would just take me out of it, and then like it just didn't work. And like, yeah, so you, I mean, you basically, you kind of start lying, you know, people are asking you like, you know, you just kind of got to overcompensate because it's just like, yeah, like that's who I wanted to be was not that. So, and the truth of the matter is like people weren't open and weren't accepting. So if I would have just like been open about that, there wouldn't have been a place for me. And I think also like we as Black people can be a lot more homophobic, and it's just in the music, and like it just is what it is. So like it's really tough. So yes, I mean that was definitely a secret and was going to stay a secret, you know, that I messed around with guys. I didn't want people to think I was gay, and I didn't want to be gay, even though I knew I really, really liked it. And I knew I liked guys. So, you know, fast forward, I graduate high school, you know, I go to college, and in college, like I ended up finding like another guy that I liked, and like we would like when we were drunk, we would like hook up sometimes, like mess around. But I was still dating girls again, and like I ended up joining a frat and like had so much fun, like, you know what I mean? We would go to parties and travel and things like that. We would throw parties, and we would definitely like hook up with mad girls like at our like house, and just like I was having fun. I was having a lot of fun, and like, and that's the thing is like those guys, even so I'm gonna tell more of the story, but like those guys wouldn't have been okay with me being gay. I don't even know if I would have gotten in the frat. I probably wouldn't have gotten in the frat if I were open about that. So it's like you kind of have to keep those secrets, and I did, you know what I mean? And like furthermore, I was horrible because I was homophobic. Like just because I was masculine, like I would talk shit about gays, and like or you know what it was too, like when you're trying to keep this kind of secret, like guys who were super feminine, like that intimidated me. Like I was like, I didn't want to be around that, you know, because like one, I'm trying to keep a secret, and like, I don't know, like it just makes you even worse. So like, so now in the future, like if there's a straight guy that's like can't handle being friends with a gay guy, it's probably because you got an issue. Like just because someone is gay doesn't mean that they're going to try to mess with you. 9 times out of 10, they probably want to mess with another gay person so they can actually like kiss and be affectionate, and it's not awkward. Back to the story. So yeah, so I'm in college, you know, and having a great time, you know, it's lit. And eventually I end up getting a girlfriend. I end up dating this girl, and we date like, you know what I mean, pretty much throughout college, and I really loved her. But like I also was messing around with this other kid, and I ended up falling for him too. And he had a girlfriend. So then that was tough, you know, like in this relationship, you know, and this kid has become like my best friend, and like we're also like we have this other relationship, this dynamic, and you know, like the girls were friends, and you know, I'm just like figuring out myself and my life and what I like. And by my senior year, I kind of definitely realized like, okay, like I definitely like him more than I like her, you know what I mean? And like me and her started having issues anyway, so I actually broke up with her my senior year. And but regardless, like people just knew of us as a thing, so it didn't matter. So now I'm in my senior year, and like I'm going through all this, and like I'm communicating to him too that like, yo, I think I like really like you, like we should just like run off, like, you know what I mean? Like I'm such a hopeless romantic. And he wasn't with it. He wanted to keep his girlfriend, like he wanted to keep his life the way he was, like he wasn't into it. So that kind of broke me. So I'm like drinking, I lose my phone one time, and some guys from another frat find my phone, and they tell her, you know, what they see in it, because there's like all these texts, and they're like, I love you text in there, you know what I mean? Like there's some heat. So yeah, so they eventually tell her, and then they just spread it around campus, and yeah, like it definitely broke me, to say the least. You know, it's like your deepest, darkest secret gets out there. And I just like, I kind of stopped going to classes. I would just like be in my room, just like drinking or smoking every day. I just was like, I was going through it. I was really going through it. And I definitely, in those kind of situations, you figure out who your friends are, because at the time, like I was popular, like I was like BSA president, and like I thought everybody was my friend, and you find out quickly that they're not, you know what I mean? And people was like talking about me, subtweeting me on Twitter. I'll be at a party and like people would be like a few feet away from me talking about me, and like, it was cool. And like eventually, like, but like I said, people who were really down for me, like my boy Harold, like had me move, because I had my own apartment. He had me move in with him, and like my boy RBA, like, people just really like were there for me and like saved my life, and I think the best thing I did was I went to a psychiatrist, or like the social worker on campus, and like a lot, like this shit is heavy, you know what I mean? Like living like a double life and trying to keep these secrets, like, we're going through it. So like, this is like mental issues, and you need mental help. So it's like, you need to go see someone and talk things out. And I think the best advice for I have people now is like, even if it's still a secret for you, find a friend that you trust, someone that you trust, a relative, anyone, and tell them, like just to have a support system outside of just like the random people you're messing around with, because you don't know those people's intentions. And like, the truth of the situation is, it really sucks that like your real friends don't know you, but these random people you're messing around with get to know you, know the real you, so that's more of why you should actually try to like come out. But yeah, so, I see this psychiatrist, and like, it was the first time I was able to really talk it through with somebody. And like, he kind of helped me see like, it seems like this guy isn't like a good person, and yada, yada, yada. And like, he got me a medical withdrawal from classes, because like I was failing. I was not going to classes. And like, I got my stuff together. I decided to graduate early. Like, I was supposed to graduate in 5, but like, I just like decided to finish my classes online. I took like a 6-month internship, graduated, moved to Portland, Oregon. And like, I was good. I was able to kind of like, start fresh a little bit, think about my life. And I eventually ended up moving to New York. And that was the best thing ever. Like, cause in New York, man, like this was all happening in Michigan, in the Midwest, and people can be, very homophobic, or just not that like open to different things. Whereas in Europe, people just don't care. Like, you can be however crazy you want to be, you can be different, you can be whatever, and people are just open and loving and accepting, and like, it's the best, So that was like awesome for my development, because I really got to just kind of recreate myself. And like, I remember working at this restaurant in Harlem called Red Rooster, and like, I was like, messing around with this girl, and then like, I started messing around with this guy, and like, I was open to them about it, and like, they would get into it about me, and like, it was really good. And like, I definitely was able to get to a point where it wasn't something where I felt like there was something wrong with me, and because that's part of it. Like, you got to come to the realization that like, you're okay. There's nothing wrong with you, it's natural. Like, this is just who you are. And you accept that, and you don't have to fit into anybody's box, Personally, technically, I guess I'm bisexual, because I do like both, but I do prefer guys. But I think like sexuality is a spectrum, like, I think, we're into people, if you're into someone, like, it can be a guy or a girl, like, just like you're into that person, and like the physical aspect is just, it's just sex, it's just physical. But like, I'm really into beautiful people, and there's anything after that is just your preference. Like, what do you prefer? So yeah, so now in New York, I started dating more and more, and I started to just prefer guys. But also, I think part of that is because I never wanted to have to, once I started dating guys, I didn't want to have to then go to a girl and tell her that I also mess with guys, because then, oh, well, you gay. You know what I mean? Like, people aren't okay with that. But more and more now, people are like more fluid. But back then, it was like, nah, like, if you've been messing around with guys, like, you gay. Like, that's it. So yeah, so, at that point, that's what it was. So, but I got to a point where I was tired of lying to my family. I was definitely tired. And my auntie would call, and she, we be talking to the girls, yada, yada. And I wanted to be able to just to tell the truth and like be myself and not have to lie every time she called. So, I eventually bit up the courage to tell her, and I called her, and I definitely cried, like as I said it, I think the best thing to do is to just to tell them you have something to tell them. Cause as soon as you do that, now they want to know what you have to tell them, and like you gotta tell them. So then like just say that, and then even if you gotta text it, if you just gotta just get it out, however, and then at some point you're gonna have to have the conversation. But like it's not as bad as you think it is. It's like we in our heads make it such a huge thing, and because you want to make your family proud and appease them and all these things, and I get it, but ultimately like you are responsible for your own happiness. No one is going to make you happy, not your parents, not your family. Like I get it if like you don't have the resources to take care of yourself or things like that, like figure it out and make sure you're safe and responsible. But ultimately you got to get to a place where you're taking care of you, and like you're able to be yourself and be transparent and like not care what people think, because you know who you are, and you know what I mean, how awesome you are. So that's the place that I think everyone should be trying to move from. But yeah, so when I told my auntie, she basically was just like, don't let that define you. Like you're so much more than that. And it was awesome, because it is true. Like your sexuality is just a small part of you, like that. You know what I mean? Like there's so many more qualities that make up a person. So you can't let that become your world. You know what I mean? And just like moving your whole world around that. And I ended up telling more people in my family, and like they were fine. And I think 3 years later, I went and made it public on like my social media and things like that. And I could have done it sooner, but I chose not to for career reasons and things like that. But I definitely, now I'm very open. I don't have anything to hide, and it's nice, and like, I get that a lot of people keep it a secret because, they don't, they want to be friends with certain people or in certain, cool crowds, like, and like, for me, it's like, if you don't like me because I'm gay, then like, you don't like me. Like legitimately, like you don't like me, and I'm not about to edit something about myself or change something about myself every day so that like you feel more comfortable, or like, what I mean, or that you're cool with me, because that's not me. You're not my people, and there are people that are going to accept you for you, but you gotta do the work to accept you. You know what I mean? To find those people. So that's my coming out story. If you are struggling with, coming out, I think, like I said, just like fine. And you know what I think really helped me for the most part too was, having really, really, really good friends. Like in New York, my best friend Janice, like I told her, and like, my friend Christina, like people just really were there for me, and like, didn't care, and the more and more, like even my straight friends, my male friends that like didn't care, don't care, like, if anything, like being friends with a gay guy, he's probably friends with all the girls. Like you want to be friends with him so that like you can get the girls if you actually like girls. But yeah, so no, I think just finding good friends that that you can tell and have a support system, like it'll take you a long way. But trust me, it's not as bad as you think it is. So good luck.